Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. Today is day 0 of AWS Zero to Hero series, and in this video, I'm going to share you the complete course details. So please watch this video till the end so that you understand what are you going to learn right from day 1 to day 30, which includes a lot of theory, scenarios, practicals, live projects, and also interview questions. Before going on to the video, if you are a new viewer or new subscriber of our channel, just to let you know, I'm doing a 30 days of AWS series, which is very focused on DevOps engineers. We'll do projects for DevOps engineers, what DevOps engineers do on day-to-day basis. And this video, this entire series is going to be right from basics. So you don't need any prerequisites or prior knowledge of AWS or other cloud providers. The series starts on 25th of June. Today is day 0 where I'll talk day to day what are you going to learn. So I hope all of you have subscribed to the channel. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, let's start with day 1 and see what are we going to learn right from day 1. So this is the GitHub repository. I hope you can see the screen. Let me just increase the font size. So this is the GitHub repository. It's in my GitHub space. I am Veeramalla, and the name of the repository is AWS DevOps Zero to Hero. So I'll use this same repository whenever I feel if I want to share some notes related to a specific day, image, screenshots, whatever is required, I'll keep adding to this repository. So start this repository, watch for changes on this repository, and you can click on the star button, fork button, and watch button so that you get notified whenever I add a new commit to this repository. Okay, so right from day 1, day 1 is going to be introduction to AWS, where I'll introduce you to the world of private and public cloud. I'll teach you what is private cloud, what is public cloud, and what is the difference between private and public cloud. After that, I'll also teach you why people are moving towards cloud and why your organization, if it hasn't, why it should move towards the public cloud, or who has to move towards public cloud. We'll also learn about these things. Apart from that, for the beginners who have no idea on AWS, we'll also create an account with AWS, and I'll show you how to create that account, what are the details that are required, and how to navigate and use the AWS management console. So this is going to be the entire day 1, and we will not be doing a lot of things on AWS on the first day, but we will learn about the world of cloud. We will learn private cloud, public cloud, differences, why cloud, and a lot of other things, and it's going to be really interesting session. So once you have an account with AWS that you have created on day 1, from day 2, we'll start using AWS services. The first service that we are going to learn is one of the most widely used. If you are a DevOps engineer, developer, QE, anything that you are doing on AWS, you might have heard about this thing called identity and access management, which is basically used to manage accesses. And as a DevOps engineer, sometimes you are required to use this service to create users on AWS, groups on AWS, restrict some policies, create policies for some groups. So I'm going to teach about all of these things, and I'll also talk about zero access, zero privilege, how to move towards zero access. All of these things will talk about some best practices. So it will be a dedicated session on IAM, that is identity and access management. So once you understand that, so that means you have created an account on AWS, then you have created a user for yourself on AWS, and we are good to go with other services. And the first one after IAM is EC2 instances. So what is EC2 instance? Why you have to use EC2 instance? Why is it so popular? What are the different types of EC2 instances, and how you can play around with EC2 instances? So this is going to be the session, and at the end of this video, we'll do a very simple project where I'll host a simple web application. So I'll deploy a web application on this EC2 instance. It can be any DevOps related application as well. For example, we can deploy Jenkins, and Jenkins is again a web application, right? It's a Java web application. I'll deploy any such application for you people, and I'll show you how to access this application from outside world. That means how to access this application from your laptop, what configuration is required, and all of these things. So once you learn that, on day 4, we will learn about networking concepts on AWS. So this is very, very important, and it is like mandatory thing that you have to learn as a DevOps engineer, the virtual private cloud concept and the networking concept of AWS. Now, why is it very important? Is because you don't just deploy your application, but around that application, you create a lot of configurations. For example, you add more security to it, you create some subnets, you create some route tables, design, networking infrastructure for your application. And all of these things comes under virtual private cloud and some additional networking configuration we will be learning on day 4. And day 5 is going to be the security aspect. So when I say security, you don't have to be much worried about it, because I'll teach you the networking and security in as easy way as possible, because this is where most of the people will get confused. When you are doing it on premises, you have different names. When you're doing it on cloud, you have different name, and from one cloud to other cloud, you have different names. So I'll teach this networking and security in such a way that you understand the basics of it. Even if you move from one cloud to another cloud, or if you move back to on premises, the concept will stay with you. So as part of AWS security, so for this application that we have deployed, or in general, I'll show you how to restrict as much as possible, so that you prevent any unwanted outside access to your application. And we will control these things. I'll show you how to use the network ACLs. I'll show you how to restrict it using the IAM policies and many other things. So this will be covered as part of day 5 AWS security. Then we will move towards day 6. So till now, all of these things that we have covered, so some or the other way, they are related towards the compute, networking, security. And one more thing that we will learn on day 6 is AWS Route 53, which is a DNS based service on AWS. And using Route 53, you can do a lot of things. You can play around with Route 53 in AWS. But in general, I'll show you how to manage a specific domain using Route 53, and how to register, how to create DNS records, and some advanced features like health checks, routing policies. These are some things that we'll learn on day 6. And day 7 is the real interesting one. So we will try to create a practical project on what we have learned till now, using day 2 IAM, EC2 instance, networking, security, Route 53. Using all of these things on day 7, I'll create a interesting project. It can be, right from basics, like I'll show you step by step. Even I have noted down some steps here, but it will be even more detailed than this, because here anyone who goes through this document, they can understand what is this project going to be about. But on a high level, what I'll do is I'll use all of these and I'll create a project. So that project will have an application that is created on an EC2 instance using all the networking, security, Route 53, and all the configuration that DevOps engineers create in a real environment. That is, once you join a project, you will not just deploy an application on EC2 instance, but you will take care of all of these things. And that will be your day 7. So day 7 is going to be very interesting. You should not miss it. Once we are done with all of these things, like the networking, compute, DNS, and all of the things, we'll move to a different section, that is AWS S3. So if you have heard about Amazon Web Services, that is AWS, it's very likely that you have heard about Amazon S3, because S3 is one of the simplest service but very powerful service that is available on AWS. Here or there, people might have used S3 for storage, different kind of storage, not just storing your files, but S3 has a wide use case, and we will talk about all of this wide use case, real-time use case of AWS S3, and how you can host a static website using Amazon S3. You can create a simple HTML page and you can host it, or you can create a static website with CDN and all of these things and host it on S3. We'll be covering all of those things on day 8. And most of these things will be 50 to 1 hour sessions. Sometimes the session can be 40 minutes also. The main goal is that to teach AWS in the point of view of DevOps engineer. So I don't want to talk about services like machine learning or AI ops. Probably you might use it, but as a DevOps engineer, these are the most frequent services, or the services that you use most widely. Okay, so day 9 is going to be AWS Cloud Formation. So AWS Cloud Formation is a infrastructure related tool, and it follows the principles of infrastructure as code, and primarily used to create infrastructure on AWS. So what all the services that we discussed here, the security services, Route 53, networking, EC2 instance, IAM, all of these things without managing manually, you can manage this entire things using the AWS Cloud Formation. So I'll teach you in this video how to create the infrastructure on AWS using some scripts, that is the Cloud Formation templates. And also we will do a live project. So the project details are shared here in this document. So this is a very brief document. Going ahead, I'll keep updating this document, and trust me, this document is going to be filled with all the project details that you can use in your resumes, or details of theory and interview questions. And like I told you, I'll be creating folders, I'll be attaching images, screenshots, whatever is required, and also some references. Sometimes probably due to some time restrictions, we might do a single project, but I'll share you some references to do more advanced projects on a specific service. So when we learn about cloud formation, in the similar lines, probably day 8, day 10, or somewhere, or in between, I'll take a special class where I'll be talking about the CLI part of AWS as well. So that's not going to take much time, because we have talked about AWS CLI in previous videos on my channel as well. So, but I'll do one more brief session on AWS CLI, where I'll tell you very quickly how to use AWS CLI. Because if you know CloudFormation, AWS CLI also somewhere or the other doing the same thing. So we will try to cover it in the same days. Then you have AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So one thing is, I was slightly confused if I have to teach you AWS Elastic Beanstalk here or somewhere down. So this might slightly go here or there. When I'm in a flow, and if I feel that I don't want to get distracted, probably I might put AWS Elastic Beanstalk later, but I'll definitely be covering it. And as part of Elastic Beanstalk, we will learn about a fully managed AWS service deployment and scaling point of view, and we will do a very simple project as well with the Elastic Beanstalk. But from day 11, it is going to be getting more and more exciting. I know you people will really love it when I talk about CICD. So from day 11 to day 14 is going to be completely dedicated on CICD point of view of AWS. So we will be doing a complete CICD setup on AWS, where on day 11 we'll talk about AWS code commit, and we will learn how to use AWS code commit. Day 12, it is going to be AWS code pipeline, and we will do a project again on AWS code pipeline. It's going to be a simple project. Day 13, we'll learn about AWS code build, and we will do a project on AWS code build. Day 14, we will talk about AWS code deploy, and we will use AWS code deploy. So till here, you haven't learned about containers or the container services on AWS. So what I'll do is, probably on day 14, when we use the code deploy, we will try to deploy it on a EC2 instance. Or if I feel that I need to teach you on container services here itself, probably without going into details of ECS or EKS, I might show you how to deploy on EKS or ECS using code deploy. But it will be very optimal and efficient if I teach you to deploy on EC2 instance here specifically, because we haven't talked about any other services. Just a second. Okay, on day 15, we will try to learn about AWS CloudWatch. So we will take a complete drift from the CI/CD services, because we have spent 4 days here, day 11, day 12, day 13, and day 14. So from here, we'll be learning about the monitoring. So day 15, AWS CloudWatch, you will understand what is AWS CloudWatch, why is it used, how to create alarms, how to create triggers, events, and collect metrics. All the information related to CloudWatch will be covered in one dedicated video, that is AWS CloudWatch, day 15. And once you learn that, we will learn about AWS LAMBDA. Mostly, we will try to use this in terms of Python, because DevOps engineers mostly use Python. You can also use Go language here, but just to keep it basic, or just to make more people comfortable, we will use Python here. And we will try to understand the concept of serverless computing, and we will try to understand how to use this serverless computing to write serverless functions, trigger them based on events using CloudWatch, and much more things. Day 17 is also going to be same, where we will try to combine AWS CloudWatch and AWS Lambda functions, and we will do a project which will be AWS CloudWatch events and Event Bridge. So what we will do here is we will try to understand the event-driven architecture. This is very, very important for DevOps engineers. Most of the DevOps engineers use this same use case in their companies. So the project that we will do on day 17, the serverless event-driven workflow, uh, you can definitely talk about this project during your interviews, and you will get a positive feedback about it. Day 18 is going to be about the AWS CloudTrail and the configurations around it. So basically, you will understand how to use the CloudTrail to get the logging related information. So we will use the log API activities, and we'll also see some AWS config rules so that you enforce the compliance rules. So again, day 15, 16, 17, 18 are going to be interrelated. So try to attend all these videos. Do not try to skip one video. You will break the flow of it. So here we are doing a project, and here we are doing a project. Mostly these projects will be very easy to understand, but if you watch the previous videos, then it will be much more connected towards the videos. Okay, so after this, day 19, we will try to understand the AWS DynamoDB. So DynamoDB is very widely used on AWS, where people, DevOps engineers use DynamoDB for Terraform locking mechanism. We use DynamoDB for locking the state file and using it. So apart from that, I'll also show you how to manage the DynamoDB tables, some CRUD operations. If I feel that this is going beyond the understanding of many people, then I'll try to reduce the scope of it, because again, DynamoDB is a very heavy concept, and not everything related to DynamoDB is required for DevOps engineers. So I'll try to talk about the DynamoDB in the scope of DevOps engineering. Then we will learn about AWS ECS. So the more focus would be on AWS EKS. I'll not focus more on AWS ECS. I'll tell you the reason. EKS or Kubernetes is the most widely used container orchestration platform. Like AWS promotes ECS a lot, but in practical use case, if you want to prepare for your interviews, or if you want to, once you join the companies, if you want to be ready for the DevOps job roles, Kubernetes is a thing that will help you a lot. So more than Elastic Container Service, which is AWS service for container orchestration, will focus on the EKS, that is Elastic Kubernetes Service. Right. So I'll teach you about the basics of ECS. Probably, I'll talk about a simple project on ECS, but mostly the focus will be on EKS. And whenever we are doing some project, let's say we are deploying applications onto container platforms, container orchestration platforms, that will be EKS only. So that will be your 21-22, where you learn about the container registry and EKS. So after that, we will move ahead and we will try to understand the CloudWatch logs. So if this video here, when I'm making this video, if I feel that that is going in the similar lines of CloudWatch that I've talked here, then I will remove this video and I'll add some practical project on day 23. So don't worry about it. Then we'll learn about the AWS Systems Manager. So Systems Manager is used for managing secrets, credentials, API keys. So any DevOps engineer, when they are doing any projects on AWS, definitely you will deal with sensitive information, whether it can be passwords, API tokens, or any other sensitive information. So Systems Manager is very widely used by DevOps engineers, and we will try to learn it in a practical way. Then AWS Autoscaling. So the name itself tells you what is autoscaling. On day 25, we'll learn about this service called autoscaling, which is used to adjust the capacity. Let's say during Christmas or during any peak hours, you want to scale your resources, and once the Christmas is done, you want to remove the resources. Let's say you want to bring it back to the normal state. So in such cases, many companies on AWS, they use autoscaling. So it is very important to learn about autoscaling. What are the different types of scaling AWS support, and how to use autoscaling? What is the effective way? In which scenario you have to use which type of scaling? So these are some of the things that we will learn. Then AWS RDS, which is relational database service. We will try to learn about this as well. Again, RDS has a very big scope. So RDS is used by different types of engineers: DevOps, development, QE. I will teach you RDS in the scope of DevOps engineers. AWS Elastic Load Balancer. So here I'll talk about the history of load balancers. I'll tell you what are the different types of load balancers that are available, classic, network, application load balancer. And I'll talk about the use case of each of these load balancers, when which load balancer uses in which case, application load balancer L7, network load balancer L4. I'll talk about that networking thing, why and how this load balancer will help you. And when we talk about it, of course, we'll talk about high availability, fault tolerance, scalability aspect, and all of the things. I think this got repeated. AWS Systems Manager. Where is it? Yeah. So AWS Systems Manager, probably will do another live project here. I don't know how this got repeated. I'll just check once. But on day 29, we will learn about the most interesting thing, and many people will, during the interviews, many people might have faced this interview question. Can you talk about the AWS cloud migration? So in this video, I'll talk about different cloud migration strategies, different tools that are available in the market. I'll tell you right from basics how to answer this interview question. When someone asks you, tell me about cloud migration, how you have achieved the cloud migration. After watching this video, I'll definitely tell you that you will be able to answer this question, and the interviewer will be convinced with the migration strategy that you have, that you will tell in the interview. And finally, day 30, we'll talk about the best practices and how to prepare for AWS jobs, what are the other resources, and how you can do more projects on AWS. Apart from all of these things, during each video, whenever I feel that interview questions are required, probably like I told you, there is one thing that got repeated here, Systems Manager. And another thing that I've noticed is this AWS CloudWatch logs. So let's say if I find any such videos that are less useful, and if I want to add interview questions for the benefit of large audience, so what I'll do is I'll replace this specific day. Right now I found 2 days with AWS interview questions, and using that you can be prepared for AWS DevOps engineering role as well. And one more thing that I was thinking is, let's say you are a beginner on AWS, and the next day I'm going to talk about AWS container service or AWS Kubernetes service. It will not be correct thing to talk right from the containers, right from the zero of containers in a specific video, because that will take a lot of amount of time. So what I'll do is, before day or before the starting of the video, I'll share you the resources on my channel where I've done the DevOps Zero to Hero series. For example, I've done 5 to 6 videos on containers, history of containers, how you can learn containers. So before you go on to this specific topic, it is recommended to watch those videos and come back. So in such cases, I'll give you the prior information, or before the video, I'm going to share you all the resources that you should watch before watching this specific video. So please follow this entire series. And whenever I ask you to follow a specific video before you watch a specific day of the video, please also do that, so that you will learn AWS practically. Like I told you, my focus is not about teaching a specific certification, getting you ready for a certification, but my focus is to get you ready for job. And we talked about DevOps Zero to Hero. This is AWS Zero to Hero. Overall, it's a complete package of AWS DevOps or any cloud DevOps engineering role, because if you know any cloud, then you can apply for the other cloud. People will understand that, not everyone has idea of all the cloud services, and your interview will be on the cloud service that you know the better. So yeah, that's all I have for the video. And like I told you, I'll keep updating this GitHub page with all the information. So follow this GitHub page. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe to our channel and share this video with maximum number of people, so that on 25th, when we start this series, a lot of people have to benefit from this free DevOps AWS Zero to Hero course. Again, thank you so much for watching the video. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye.